Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for coming. Hope everybody had a chance to grab refreshments, and we'll have some more later. I'd like to welcome you to ALM's offices. I'm Rosalie Donlin. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Reference Solutions, which you all know in the dark ages as books, publications in insurance, tax, financial services, and legal. And I'd like to introduce you to our CEO, Bill Carter.
Thank you, Rosalie. And let me add my welcome to you joining us here at ALM. So for those who may wonder, what is ALM? We're an information, data, and media company serving 4 industries. So legal, insurance, financial services, and commercial real estate. Our roots are in legal, but about 7-8 years ago, we made a big move into insurance and expanded our presence. And so that brought in National Underwriter, Property Casualty 360 into the fold. So just on a personal note, my extended family is all in insurance. My dad was an underwriter. My brother is a producer for a specialty insurance provider. I've got some cousins who run a insurance company down in New Orleans that underwrites insurance for tow truck companies. And my brother-in-law is a life insurance agent. So I have all kinds of connections through that. I'm just touching on my family. They're all over the place in insurance. So it's actually important to me personally and to ALM to support up and coming young professionals to help you develop, to help you network, and to help you grow. So we're very happy to host the event in conjunction with St. John's and Accord. Hopefully enjoy the evening. Hopefully you get a chance to meet some people, learn something, and really just also have a great time. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Tasha Norman, who is the head of our Young Professionals Network. She has a host of other jobs, I think sometimes including being my boss. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Tasha and let her take it from there.
Bill, I appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. Hi. Hello. I'd like to thank everyone for being here at ALM. I'd like to thank Bill, and I'd like to thank our panelists, Rosalie and Patty. So this evening will be pretty special, but I'd like to tell you about the Young Professionals Network, what we call YPN. We're a LinkedIn group. It's invite only, of course, because we're selective. But what's interesting about the Young Professionals Network is about nurturing the next generation. So we serve all these different industries, but we really need to understand what the next generation needs from us in our industries. What's important? What makes them tick, right? What makes you want to stay at an industry? Or if that industry is not working for you, how do you change? How do you upskill? How do you change industries? What do you need to know? How do you develop your career? So that's what we do at the Young Professionals Network. We use our content from ALM. So we have all of our 5 different industries. We upload content to that platform. So you can learn about what we do. You get to know ALM, also career development. I also write a column called How I Made It. We'll be doing another, which is a Q&A series for business development and career development. We'll also do a Q&A called Moving On Up for the insurance industry. So it starts from the bottom. Where do I go from here? Or if you're here, how do you mentor down? How do you talk to the next generation of your leaders? So with that being said, I'd like to welcome you to see the flyers on the table. If you'd like to join our group, there's a QR code that you can just scan, and then I'll immediately invite you into the group. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, my name is Tasha Norman. So I'd like to introduce our next guest. Her name is Ellen Thrower. Her name is Jody Queen Hubert. She's director of the Ellen Thrower Center for Internship and Apprenticeship at St. John's at the School of Risk Management. Welcome.
Thank you. We're here this evening representing the Maurice R. Greenberg School of Risk Management, Insurance, and Actuarial Science. That's a big, long name, but we've got a very big and wonderful reputation, and we call ourselves now the Greenberg School. We are delighted to be here and partner with Accord and ALM and the Young Professionals Network to have you all get a chance to meet some of our fantastic students who are here on the panel, as well as in the audience. All of our students are beautiful, brilliant, and handsome at the School of Risk Management. No, really, we've had a history of about 125 years educating students in the fields of risk management and actuarial science. And our reputation as the College of Insurance. Now we are part of St. John's University. We're a division of the Tobin College of Business. And we have over 300 students in our programs, Bachelor of Science in Risk Management, Insurance, and Actuarial Science. And we also have graduate degree programs, Master of Science and MBA in Enterprise Risk, Risk Management, Risk Analytics. So those of you young professionals who want to power up your careers can take a look at the degree programs that we're offering. So I thank you again from all of us at the School of Risk Management, our dean and the entire administrative staff. Thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to the program tonight.
Thank you very much. I am Patty Harmon. I am the editor-in-chief of the Property Casualty 360 group here at ALM. And I thank you all for joining us for our webinar, The Future of Insurance, a conversation with tomorrow's young professionals. The insurance industry can trace its roots back to the 1600s when the first insurance-related legislation was passed in the UK. The Great Fire of London took place in 1666, and what was known as the Friendly Society in England formed a mutual insurance company in 1684 to help cover some fire losses. And while the claims and losses that are covered have changed significantly over the years, the need for insurance has not. And that leads us to the topic of our discussion for today. While it's important to look back at where the insurance industry started, our focus is very much on the future of this exciting business, the opportunities that it presents, and how carriers and reinsurers can attract the next generation of insurance professionals. Joining us today are 6 students from St. John's University, the Peter J. Tobin College of Business, and the Maurice R. Greenberg School of Risk Management, Insurance, and Actuarial Science to share their thoughts on the insurance industry, how their studies are preparing them for careers in insurance, and what they learned on some recent trips to several different insurance carriers. 3 of the students are undergraduates and 3 are graduate students. So they are at very different places in their insurance journeys. Now I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves. Let me see who, okay, you have, great. So tell us your name and then briefly describe your particular area of study. So Taylor, I'll start with you.
Yes, so my name is Taylor Sebastian. I am studying a Master's of Science in Enterprise Risk Management.
Hi, everyone. My name is Allie Nelson. I am studying MBA in Enterprise Risk Management, and I'm currently working at a company called Gramercy Risk Management as a risk management analyst.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nitin Basra. I am studying Masters of Science in Enterprise Risk Management, and I'm studying to become an actuary as well.
Hello to you all. Kostas Diakogeorgios, a junior underwriter with Micro Insurance Company Global, which just got approved as a syndicate in a box with Lloyd's.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anaha Babu. I'm currently a senior trying to be an actuary.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alina Goikman, and I'm studying quantitative risk and insurance at St. John's University, and I'll be starting at Markel in their underwriting trainee program.
So as you can see, we have an amazing group of young professionals joining us here today. So I'm going to start with a question. So I've been covering the insurance industry for a while, and I think it's just fascinating because insurance literally touches every area of our lives, even though the average public probably doesn't realize that on a daily basis. So what I would like to know from each of our students is what attracted you to learn about the insurance industry? Taylor, I'm going to start with you.
Yes, so I actually have a really interesting route that I took into the insurance industry, and it is so far from linear, but luckily the school has taught me that that is more of an advantage than it is a crutch. So originally my plan was to go into human resources, and I was working my way through nonprofit management and getting through human resources until the pandemic maybe gave me a second to think otherwise. I looked around for risk management programs and found St. John's. I got in contact with Dr. Walker. He's a professor at the university, and he could not stop bragging about the program and the Eladi Scholarship and all the amazing things I would learn. And I was really hesitant because I didn't have any experience of insurance and I didn't know anything about insurance. And I'm so thankful that I did make the decision to pursue my application, and then found my way into the enterprise risk management program, further learning about insurance. And now I'm on track to work in a claims department.
I would say I kind of fell into insurance. In high school, I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go to college or what I wanted to major in. And I was told by my calculus professor that I should look into actuarial science. And I did a lot of Google searches, and I found St. John's as one of the best schools for actuarial science. So I applied, and that was one of the only schools that I applied for. And I hoped for the best at that point. And I got into their quantitative risk and insurance program. And that's kind of how I ended up in the risk management side of things. And I am very grateful for that. And without that, I don't know what I would have been doing, honestly.
So a similar story to Allie. In high school, I was great at math, but not good at anything else. So I went to my guidance counselor and said, what should I do? And they said, all right, you like accounting? We went down the list. And I said, nah, that's kind of boring. And then they said, actuarial science. I'm like, what's that? And they're like, oh, you're going to calculate pensions for people that are about to die. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe, you know. And so I thought about it. And initially, I went for St. John's because it was very highly rated for actuarial science. I had no idea what I was getting into. 5 years later, I'm still with it, so it's worked out well. But I'd say initially, everyone thinks insurance is so boring. It's just claims, and you have a problem and they want to sort it out for you by paying a claim. But what I realized 5 years later and throughout my journey is that insurance provides a safety net and the willingness to take a risk where there isn't. So the local bodega that you go shop at, or even the company you work at, can take a risk because they have insurance backing them. And that's the moral compass that I live by, that we're providing an opportunity for those companies and those corporations to take that risk and take the next step and level.
I know some of these folks already spoke to landing in insurance. My path to insurance was pretty clear. I was 13, 14 when I started working at a family funeral home, and I had dealt with life insurers. And for me, that was something that was strange, but also interesting. It was a white collar job that I didn't know much about. I wanted to look into. So at about 14 or 15, when it came time to, like Nitin said, talk to the guidance counselors and figure out what it was to do, in the next couple of years moving forward with college, insurance seemed like an interesting field to enter into. I had gone through public school my entire life, and I planned on continuing university public school. CUNY system was my most likely option, being here from Queens. And it turned out that, in fact, St. John's had a great insurance program, and the rest is history, as they say. It took, a long 4 years, but it was the opportunity given to me by St. John's. I realized it was a great school for insurance, and that I should take it into, the opportunity that existed right there. And here I am now.
So for me, I've always loved math from a young age, and I knew that's what I wanted to do in the future. So I'm researching, if we flash back to my junior year of high school, what I can do with a math degree. And I came upon actuarial science, and I really didn't know anyone who was an actuary or anyone who was in insurance. But my uncle said, I think you'd like it. So I decided to go with it. And I chose St. John's because, unlike other schools who have an actuarial program, it's all in the math department, but here it's in the business department. And I think that's so important because you're in the business industry and it's all about relationships. So here I am.
So I have a bit of a different story. I'm one of those that has family in insurance. My mom growing up worked in insurance, and she kind of pulled my sister-in-law into the industry as well. So I had some very incredible women role models that were already in the industry and enjoyed their experiences. So I knew about the industry going into college, but when I was picking my university, that wasn't my priority. Like in AHA, I wanted to study math because I wanted to be an actuary. And so what really sold me on the insurance industry was the Insurance Leader of the Year dinner hosted by St. John's University. I got invited there as a prospective student my senior year. And when I attended, I really saw the entire industry, or that's what it felt like in that room. And I realized if that's an industry that I wanted to be a part of, I needed to make St. John's my home, and I needed to start in New York City. And here I am as well. So.
It's so interesting to me how many of you were really good in math, and that was how you ended up in insurance. Just as an aside, I was really terrible at math and at science. I was an excellent writer, and so now I am a journalist. So, you know, what your strengths are do kind of have an impact on what you end up doing as your career. So you have all mentioned how great St. John's is, but I was wondering if you could give us a little bit more information about the school and how the program has prepared you for a career in insurance. Alina, I'll start with you.
Sure. So what I soon realized after starting freshman year at St. John's University was that the Greenberg School of Risk Management was essentially a hidden gem within the business college. The support that you get at the university and the support that you get specifically from the program is like no other. And the reason for that is because of the history of the school. So we were the College of Insurance before we became the Greenberg School of Risk Management. And because of that, we've been supported by the industry for a very long time. And that support continues and grows and evolves. And like I mentioned earlier, that leadership dinner that I was fortunate enough to attend multiple times after that really is there to raise money for students at St. John's University to provide scholarships. I'm sure the other panelists on here with me have received great scholarships through the Greenberg School of Risk Management. And a lot of that is because the industry supports us. And so what makes us different is that, like Anaha mentioned, we're in the business school. The coursework is very applicable to the industry, and what we learn translates directly to what we're going to be doing once we start. And so that gives you a leg up in an industry, because a lot of the times the industry was built on people that didn't study insurance. They didn't study risk management. They fell into it. And we're at a different level of exposure because we're learning about it. And that's what our focus is these past 4 or 5 years.
Great answer. I don't know how to follow that up, but what I'll say, that is why I enjoy my experience at St. John's for 5 years, connecting with students that are your age. As a freshman, you look up to the upperclassmen for knowledge and just picking their brain to see where you want to end up. Because when you go to St. John's, in insurance specifically, there's so many different routes you can go through. The people you meet, the connections you have. And so you pick their brain, you gain knowledge, but what you do with that knowledge is that you aid the people under you. Once you become an upperclassman, you help the underclassmen, and that chain continues. And that's the beauty about this program, is that once you get educated, you educate the next generation. And that's what I believe is the key and the strength of St. John's, educating their youth so the next people keep carrying it forward. And the students are extremely helpful. And you can see, none of us would be here if there wouldn't be students and professors and colleagues that we know that lent out a hand when we were struggling the most. And that's what I really appreciate about this school.
So we touched on this briefly and in your introductions, and I realize that some of you have kind of addressed this as you've answered some of the other questions, but I want to know, what areas of insurance are you interested in pursuing and why? And I'm going to start with Taylor, probably down on this.
So I am one of the not boring, but very exciting claims interested individuals. And I got interested in that because my background's actually in professional sports. Working with professional sports, a big word thrown around baseball operations is risk. And I didn't know what that meant. And so having searched more into it and gotten to do some deep diving, claims struck my heart. And that is what I plan on pursuing. And I have baseball to thank for it.
I work in the risk management department now, but if I did choose a career switch, I would probably go into claims as well. I had a I had a mentor through the APIW program through St. John's, and she works in claims, and she educated me so much in claims. We would talk monthly, and we would go over claims, and she would ask me who's liable, tell me what happened in the situation, what coverage will trigger here. And it really intrigued me because it made my brain work in a different way than I was used to using it. And the investigation and the adjuster side of claims is what I would be interested in.
So I am an actuary, but initially I wanted to become a mathematician. I loved math. I would do proofs while I couldn't sleep at 3 a.m. So I'd pull out a piece of paper and do some proofs on it. I'm super weird. You'll figure that out as we go on. But I didn't want to monetize a passion because I thought I would lose the beauty of it. So I went to actuarial science. It was the next best thing because you learn more about these concepts and these mathematical concepts mixed with insurance. And so from my end, I did actuarial science, not only because you model risk and you're looking at it from a different perspective, but you kind of control your own career. The more exams you take, you dictate your salary, you dictate the position you want to be in life. Some actuaries, they take 3 exams, they're content with life, they become an analyst the rest of their career because they love that job. Some want to pass all the exams as fast as possible, climb up the ranks and become a CEO or executive level person. And so that carry and you have the rope in your hand. That's what I really appreciate about this profession.
I'm involved in underwriting currently in my day-to-day, but I have been fortunate enough to have exposure in a bunch of different areas of the insurance industry because it's a young company. I mentioned it earlier, and just being able to touch different projects and see the different, aspects that need help, reaching out to people and saying, hey, if you need a hand on this, kick something my way. I have a free couple hours. So I've been fortunate enough, and I think that's good experience for any young person to have, as many of you would likely agree. So to that end, although underwriting is my current role, I'm still sort of seeking. I have been fortunate enough to benefit from a mentor who has been, both very capable and also very instructional, saying, hey, and constructive, of course, saying, you did this wrong, but work on it, or you can go into this area, or your aptitude seems to be, you'll be better suited to work on claims or work on, as a broker. Just being able to touch all the different parts of a business is a very good thing for young people. And I've been one of those to benefit from it.
So just like Nitin, I'm also pursuing an actuarial career on the property and casualty side. I think on that side, the risks are much more dynamic. They're constantly changing. He also mentioned exams, which are definitely not fun. But once you do get through those at your own pace, I think it's an industry that is changing. There's so much opportunity with it. And I'm excited to contribute and, see what I can do to help the industry move forward.
So for me, I was very headstrong on being an actuary. And then I realized that that's not what I wanted to do when I graduated. But I was able to secure different internships through St. John's, through Jody. And I was able to learn about the different sides of the industry, even on the actuarial side. And so after that experience, I realized, I don't want to study actuarial science necessarily. So I switched my major to quantitative risk and insurance, which is something very specific in our program, is that you don't have to be stuck in a major, which is very important because actuarial is very rigid in terms of, you have exams to pass and the program prepares you for those. And so quantitative risk gave me a little bit more freedom to explore, to take risk management courses that I found interesting. So I took a course in commercial liability and reinsurance, and that opened my eyes that what if I want to do something more in the business in terms of I'll make the decisions. The actuaries do a lot of behind the scenes work, a lot of number crunching, which I enjoyed as well. But I realized I saw something in myself that other people would tell me about, which is that I could talk to people, I could communicate. And that's something that I never really thought 4 years ago. And so I'll be starting in underwriting purely to learn, because I think underwriting is a great way to learn the business, to understand the different aspects of it. And hopefully I'll be able to bring my technical skills from my actuarial experience and give a different perspective, because I'll understand, what went into that rate. So I'm excited.
Wow, you all have just highlighted why insurance is just such a great career choice because there's so many different opportunities. And I don't think that a lot of people really realize that. Although the fact that you guys are really interested in claims, that's kind of near and dear to my heart. So that's kind of exciting. So one of the things I wanted to ask you is you all had a perception of the insurance industry before you started at St. John's, but I want to know how have your studies changed or kind of shaped your perceptions? Kostas, I'll ask you that.
So I think coming into St. John's and the insurance field specifically, you have the stigma in the back of your mind that it's a boring industry, right? That's what you're told. You're told that because for most people, that is the expectation is you only really touch insurance when you need to file a claim, and that's monotonous and boring, and no one really wants to do it unless they have to. And that was, with me coming through school. And then you sort of instructed and told by your teachers that no, there's something more to this, and just give it some time. That's a sentiment that was echoed throughout my 4 years is just give it some time, you'll see. We were fortunate enough, and I know it's a subject we'll get to in a bit, but to benefit from experience overseas where we were taken as a cohort with the Greenberg School of Risk Management to Lloyd's of London, which was a great opportunity. And there are definitely some other, you guys will touch on it more, but it was something that opened my eyes to this really is an industry that's, built on social relationships, that's built on, a handshake and people's words. And it's something that there's an underlying level of, boring because it's like anything has that layer, but it's also built on so much more than that. And that's really what sold me on it.
Anaha?
So while doing my research, while coming to St. John's for actuarial science, I kept seeing the word insurance pop up. I didn't really know what to do with it. I kind of brushed it to the side because AO insurance, it's boring. And whenever someone asks, oh, what do you think you want to do in college? I would never even mention the word insurance because I didn't know too much. So then moving forward, you take some classes. And I remember my first insurance class, the professor said on the first day, after taking this class, your perspective of the world will change. And I was like, that definitely is not true. But at the end of the semester, I did realize after you learn about what exactly insurance is and the fundamentals, your perspective really does change. If you walk outside in New York City, I mean, New York City is a different beast in itself, but just, you walk outside, there's so many things you see around yourself. And then the crazy stuff that you see, I look at my friends, and especially if they're also studying insurance, I'm like, do you think that's insured? Like, that's crazy. Who would insure that? So definitely after taking some classes and just understanding that insurance is there to mitigate risk and help society, your perspective definitely changes. And now I look at the world, I guess, with insurance eyes.
Yes, you will find that very much so. And Alina, if you're doing risk management, you will start to see the risk in everything. I'm just saying. So you guys mentioned that you had the opportunity to travel to Europe recently and to learn about the history of insurance and visit some very well-known firms. I'm actually really jealous that you guys got to go to London and Lloyd's because that's one of the places I'd love to go. So tell us about the trip, which companies you saw, and one or two things that stood out for you or that you discovered about the industry. Nit, I'm going to start with you.
So I had the absolute honor and pleasure to go with everyone on this panel to London and Miami to learn about the London market and then the Latin America market. And I asked them, I said, what do you guys think about the industry there? Like, are we just assuming like it's the same thing? And, most of them couldn't give me a straight answer because we didn't really know what was going on there. We just assumed, all right, the US kind of controls the whole market. They just, whatever happens here happens there. But once we went there, it was a totally different picture. The whole political landscape was different. The way they conduct business is different. And so in London, particularly, I shadowed Aon. Each of us had a different company we shadowed. And they were in the middle of a huge situation and crisis of Brexit. And so they're learning the new legislation, where they can do and can't do business. And so they're content with moderate growth, if not any growth, just steady pace. Here in the US, we just want continuous growth. And so you see those discrepancies that you honestly wouldn't know in a textbook because that is happening currently. And you don't know that until you physically go in that location or talk to someone there. And that's the great thing about this experience. And I think every young professional should have, because in the back of your mind, you should know that the insurance industry is a global, ever-changing animal.
Yes. So for me, I was a very eager freshman. So I knew about this trip first semester of college, and that I knew about a program. It's a selective course. And I was so excited, for my junior year so that I could finally apply. And then guess what? Pandemic. So no trip, which is so unfortunate. But senior year comes along and the trip seems like it's going to happen. The class seems like it's going to run. And I'm so ecstatic because we're finally, going to experience this trip that any student that has been on this trip of London can tell you that it's life-changing, because you learn about Lloyd's. If you're an insurance major, that's something, if you don't learn about it, then what are you doing in class? But you learn about Lloyd's, but to be there and to see it, to show how it connects the entire market there, because Lloyd's is kind of like the glue that all the other carriers, brokers, everyone surrounds it. So you turn around and you see AIG and you see Aon and you see all these companies have their offices right next door to Lloyd's. And Lloyd's in itself just shows what people don't realize about our business, which is that it's a relationship business and that it's really about knowing people. It might seem like a crazy big industry, but really it's small. You meet people in London, you meet people in Miami, and then you see them again in Ohio, or you see them at a different conference, you see them in your office maybe. So it's very interconnected. And I think the trip was very well planned in a time that you can't really plan trips well because you're still recovering from a pandemic. We got to not only see Lloyd's, but we got to see different insurance carriers. We got to see a law firm. So we saw the litigation aspect of the industry. We saw claims aspect of it. We saw the insurtech aspect of it. So we really got a well-rounded perspective of here's how the market works internationally, and here's all the parts in insurance that no one really talks about. And then when we went to Miami, we saw the Latin American market, which I really could not understand until we got there, how Miami and Latin American market work together, but they do. And it was a great experience and a great exposure. So I'm really thankful I got to go on that trip.
How long were you guys in London then?
We were in London during our spring break. So I want to say 10 days.
Okay. All right. So you guys mentioned Miami. What other opportunities have you had to travel and learn about the industry? I think I saw some of you in San Francisco at RIMS, but where else did you go? Nick, I'll let you answer.
So we had the opportunities. I had the opportunity as a sophomore going to Drake University for a symposium to compete in an actuarial competition. So it was me, another sophomore, a junior, and a senior. And keep in mind, the actuarial program starts your sophomore year. So I'm just thrown into this project, this competition. I have no idea about this concept of base rates. I have no idea. They're throwing giant gigabyte files at me, which seem normal now, but back then it's like, it takes 5 minutes to load a file. And so how am I supposed to refresh this and work on it? And, but what that does to you is that it provides you and throws you into an environment of like-minded individuals. Everyone there was an actuary. And so everyone's super focused on how many exams you have, where are you working, and so it gives you that, almost that tunnel vision of, all right, this is the industry I'm in, and this is the way I should be thinking. Last week, I went to IBANI, which is a broker event. And as you can notice, it's super loose. Everyone's trying to talk to each other and do business and maintain a relationship. And that aspect is very crucial as well. The IBANI is a misnomer. I spoke to the president, Renee, and she said, it's not only for brokers, it's for everyone. It's just named for brokers because that's where usually, if you want to meet brokers, that's where you meet. And so that experience itself, IBANI should be for everyone in a sense that if you want to maintain a relationship and talk to someone, it gives you that opportunity of building a connection.
So I love traveling. I love experiencing new cultures and new cuisines. And I'm so thankful to Greenberg for giving students so many different travel opportunities. So the first time that I traveled with the school was to Philadelphia to meet another one of the Gamma Iota Sigma chapters. You'll hear about Gamma Iota Sigma later. But you put yourself, like Nitin said, in a place with like-minded students who's trying to pursue a similar career path. And these are people that you're going to be maybe working with in the future. So I was able to build that connection early on my freshman year. And then I also got to go to 2 different Gamma Iota Sigma annual conferences, one in Dallas and one in Ohio. And again, you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people. You can talk to them about insurance and, hey, where are you going? what does that company do to, I guess, pull you in or attract you? Oh, that company's doing something cool. And then through GDC, they already spoke about it, but we did London and Miami. And then most recently, we went to RIMS in San Francisco. It was my first time going to California, so it was very beautiful. And RIMS, I don't even know how to put it into one word, but it was extravagant. You learn about insurance, you know, there's all the new risk and the emerging risk. And then also the people, there's tons of industry professionals and they're cool people. And, you know, they've worked their way up there. So just having a conversation with them, opening that dialogue and, you know, letting them know your name, that can definitely help you in the future. So once again, so thankful for Greenberg for allowing me to travel to places. After graduation, I don't know where I want to go now.
Lots of opportunities and lots of choices there for sure. So I've been covering the insurance industry for probably about 20 years or more, and it just never ceases to fascinate me. There are always new risks that are emerging. There are new types of coverage that are needed, new types of technology, which you all have been exposed to lately. And just learning about all different types of areas. I want to know, what can the insurance industry do to attract students, graduates, and other individuals looking for a job? Because I will tell you, the conversations that I had at RIMS with insurance executives, they are very interested in knowing the answer to that question. So Allie, I think I'm going to start with you for that question, if you don't.
I think the biggest thing that I would look for in a company is having the opportunity to move around through the company. Right now, I work for a small company and I'm able to go into every department. I know everyone in the whole company and I get to interact with them every day. And I get to see their different perspectives from what I see in risk management. And another thing that I think I really value when working is company happy hours are actually a great thing. You get to know somebody on a personal level outside of talking about work. And I think making those type of personal connections just helps you inside the company and making better business deals every day.
So I think the approach that we have when you define a profession or a job listing is totally inaccurate. Like you're taking a different approach that you shouldn't be. It's wrong. What I'd say is, when you go for a movie or you're trying to read a book, what's the first thing you do? You look for a review, you try to watch the trailer, and you see the best parts of everything because that might interest you. It piques your interest, you're already invested, and you're going to go in, right? And so that's the part that the insurance industry has to do. They have to make insurance more sexy. But how do you do that? So what you say is that, think about it, in the next 30 years, what are the next risks you're going to do? We're going to Mars. We're going to have autonomous vehicles. These things drive by themselves. Who is going to insure that? Those things sound impossible right now. There's going to be chips inside of your mind that control the way that you behave and cure diseases. And so those are problems and things that interest some people that originally wouldn't be. And so the way you market things, the way you display things to your audience that is your potential employee, just make it in a better package. And so they get attracted and they swoop right in and say, hey, this kind of interests me. And that's the future of tomorrow.
I definitely agree with Nitin's point, but I'll take a more personal note. I'll leave the space robots aside because we will insure those, just not anytime soon. On a more personal note, I think very much so it is the marketing. I think insurers generally, don't market themselves well. I think it's just they do well selling, but they don't do well attracting new talent. I think one of the big things that the insurance industry benefits from that maybe they need to do better of putting it out there and marketing themselves that way is saying there's a great work-life balance, the small things, because these things matter to employees. And I found it only in my first couple of months working is I need a day off or I'm attending a webinar on behalf of GSRM. My employer can say, no problem. You know what? Take a half a day, go do your thing. I think that's something I see a lot more in the insurance industry than I see in elsewhere. I have experience. I have family members who are CPAs in accounting, and we just finished up tax season. I'm sure you guys all had the joy of that April 15th deadline, but they are very much so put through the ringer every year, like clockwork. And it's something that I remember being a younger kid in my high school years and thinking, oh, maybe accounting is the way for me. And then seeing my dad, my brother, my uncle, who every April 15th, like clockwork, would suffer through tax season. I knew that wasn't what I wanted. So it was an approach I took because I realized the insurance industry, although interesting, although it has its, fun marketing caveats where you can say, yeah, hopefully we'll be able to insure visits to Mars or intergalactic travel one day, but we can't do that yet. For now, it was just a work-life balance. It was being able to say, you know, it's a great opportunity for you to gain some exposure into every field. If you're interested in, you know, going to space, maybe you can insure aerospace, you know, and being able to say there is something here for you, but getting that message across, I feel like can use some work, you know.
So I'm about to allude to my background in nonprofit. Community is everything. Your company, an insurance company, so not your company, but it could be your company, shoot for the stars, needs to be involved in the community. College students, though important, they kind of have their mindset on maybe what they want to do and how they want to go about it. They're starting to create connections, which is amazing. However, your high school students, I can't speak for everyone, but I had no idea what I wanted to do in high school. I'm pretty sure my home ec class told me I should be a truck driver. I had zero idea. I knew I was good at math. I was in mathletes. Unfortunately, it did not appeal to me. I was just in it. I was good at writing, reading. I had absolutely no idea. And what really stuck out is Intel Corporation, a tech-based company, they would hold resume building workshops. They would talk about what a GPA is. They would do things that we would think were minuscule, but they meant so much. And it really alluded to the company and, you know, what that industry was. They would do fun games and we would make robots, which could be translated into, you know, we're at Disneyland. What are the risks? Everybody go. Winning team gets candy, whatever it is. And get these questions flowing, get the insurance industry in these students' minds so that when they come to college, they have an idea. They want to look more into the industry. And this, again, is alluding to my nonprofit background, but these students, these young students in high school really look up to adults. They don't see us as just, you know, tax-paying citizens. They see us as the future of themselves, and their creative minds are insane. And they're so helpful to maybe what we're doing now. And they're 6 and they're throwing out risk ideas we've probably never heard of. And so I really think community, get out there. Companies need to not only be involved in their community space, but be involved with developing students. So
You're right. That is so important. A lot of the insurers are beginning to see that it really does start before you get to college, that having internships for high school students and being able to expose them to the different aspects of the insurance industry are really important. So a couple of you have mentioned Gamma Iota Sigma, which for those of you who are not familiar with it, is a professional fraternity that has been around for almost 70 years. And it helps to expose students to and educate them about insurance and risk management. So what I would like to know is how important has the organization been in your career development, or is it in helping you learn more about the industry? And Alina, I will start with you.
So Gamma played a very important role in my life. I joined my first semester of college. I think the first week we had the activities fair. I saw Gamma Iota Sigma and I was like, when can I give in my application? But our chapter, which is the Alpha Iota chapter at St. John's, we are ranked one of 7 distinguished chapters by the Grand Chapter. So we're pretty cool and we're recognized for it. And none of that would be possible without the support that our students and our members receive from the Greenberg School of Risk Management, because a lot of the opportunities through Gamma, I was able to develop both personally and professionally. I think I wouldn't be exposed to so many different conferences that Anaha mentioned, or so many different events where we brought in speakers from different companies to show different perspectives, if it wasn't for the support that we received from the faculty, the administration, and the dean, who has, you know, really been there. I've been president this past year, so I had to do a lot of planning with Naha. She was vice president. We did a lot of planning of the calendar, of setting up events, because we bring the social and professional development to our students. To put things in perspective, we have 4 events a week. And those are, and it's not easy to plan 4 events a week for students to actually want them to come. Enticing them with food is not enough, but we try to bring in interesting topics. We try to bring in different speakers from different companies. We try to bring in workshops, resume building, mock interviews, all of those to develop students. And the 3 years before I became president, I would utilize those resources, and I kind of saw what worked, what attracted, what benefited me. And I don't think I would be here speaking so confidently if it wasn't for Gamma Iota Sigma and the development that I received through that. It gave me confidence to be a leader, to learn what kind of leader I wanted to be. I learned a lot this past year, especially for that, how to manage a team. And that basically gave me a little bit of a viewpoint into the future of, okay, maybe I could be a manager and maybe I could be a CEO. So you'll see me up there one day. Remember my name today.
So I also joined Gamma my freshman year just because I didn't really know too much about insurance or the industry or really what exactly it is that an actuary does. So I went to Gamma meetings and I definitely got my answers and more. I think the biggest thing that I learned from Gamma, or what it has given me, is the exposure. We bring in tons of speakers. We have social events. We have networking event, whether that's industry professionals or alumni, and you talk to them and you learn stuff that you wouldn't typically learn in a classroom environment or from your professor. And because of that, I learned that there's a place for everyone within insurance, whatever your passion is, whether that's fashion, makeup, cars. You can tie your passion along with the academic, whatever you learned in school, and make a career out of it. That was definitely my biggest takeaway. And then on top of that, like Alina mentioned, I was on the executive board. And when you have to plan and organize events, you talk to a lot of the professors and a lot of the administration. And because of that, I was able to make meaningful relationships with them. And I know I can leverage that relationship even after I graduate. They'll always be there to support me. And I can't even be more grateful. And I can't, I guess, you leave this question unanswered without saying I've met some of my really good friends through Gamma. I know that they'll be my lifelong friends, and I can guarantee you and say with 100% confidence that joining Gamma has been one of the best decisions I've made in college.
How can the insurance companies, sorry, well, you guys asked me if I was going to ask follow-up questions. So my question is, how can insurance companies support the efforts of the fraternity or of Gamma?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's something, it's nationwide, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So then how can they support your efforts?
Yeah. Well, first thing is to know what Gamma is.
Okay.
So we have industry speakers, tons of speakers come in, and they tell you about the company sometimes, and just about company, why we're better, why we're, this. But what makes your company better than another one? What's something unique you do? I think, when a company comes to me and tells me they have this really cool program, it sticks with me. I know after graduation, I'll be going to Zurich. And the reason I chose Zurich was because they're very community focused. They do tons of community service events that give back into the community. And when we attended RIMS this past week at Zurich, many of the booths, they had giveaways. What Zurich was doing was, instead of giveaways, you could plant a tree. So you put your information in and they will plant a tree on your behalf. So personally, for me, I think it's being different, do something unique that will make students want to come to you, or at least, start saying your name.
Okay, great. So a lot of our focus today has been looking to the future of the insurance industry, who's going to be coming into the industry, those sorts of things. So my last question to all of you is, how do you see the future of the insurance industry? Kostas, I'm going to start. Okay, great. I'm going to start with you, and then whoever else wants to answer, just go ahead.
So I will say that this past trip to London, we had the benefit of going to the Lloyd's Innovation Lab, which is, for me, that was the future. That was their step in the right direction, was the innovation lab. And from that point, I've been excited about new technology coming into insurance, being able to insure, autonomous driving, things like that aren't typically, insurable, but we're looking to make them more insurable. Cyber risk is a big one that we touched on. So in the future, I hope that, in the coming years, especially, we can integrate more technology. We have easier claims processes with AI, things of that nature. And also that there's a push for more, I guess the term would be retail insurance, where it's going to direct to consumer. You see this recently in the news with things like Robinhood for investing, or a bunch of different companies that I can name. But I think it's targeted so that people know what's going on with their insurance policies. Maybe it's not a year-long policy. Maybe it's not a 2-year-long policy. Maybe it's a month-long policy where they can insure a specific day, a specific event, concert, like things like that, where now suddenly you have insurance touching really, truly all aspects of people's lives.
So what I'll say is the flashy answer is automation, right? And so that's the buzzword. Oh, automation. We're gonna throw automation and everything's gonna be automated. You just keep throwing that word and it works, eventually. But it's truly the answer, because what it is that it provides the employees with a more specialized role, which makes the employee actually more valuable to the company, because it makes you more less likely to be replaced, because it takes skill for your efforts. And so what happens is that automation provides the claim process ideally to be faster. Instead of 6 to 9 months, it'll probably take a month maybe. And so that provides you with a better customer experience. And so companies need to focus on better customer experience, because that's the key thing, keeping someone from being insured with another carrier. If I get better customer experience, I'm going to stay there. And so automation is not reducing jobs, but actually making the employees more valuable to the company if you have a specialized role.
Just to add, the future of insurance. When I think about the future of insurance, I think about the students that I'm studying with at St. John's in the Greenberg School. I think about how different we all are and yet how like-minded we are. So I think the future of insurance is more diverse. I think the future of insurance is more balanced in terms of employee base and leadership, in terms of gender and race. So I think that's going to grow more perspectives within the industry. And then something else that I think that's going to change is that we're going to see predictive analytics impacting the way we price things versus just looking in history. What's not going to change is the relationship aspect of the industry. I think that's something that's very important, and that's what's going to stay. And something that I hope will change, and I think will, is the appreciation from the consumers of the insurance industry.
Beautiful. I was actually going to say the appreciation for the industry as well, but I'm going to throw out a kind of more interesting answer. I think that transparency is going to change within the industry. And I think there's going to be a emphasis on digital assets and whether they're centralized or decentralized. And that's what I foresee in the future.
So thank you very much, all of you, for sharing your insights. And now we're going to take a few questions from the audience. If anybody had any questions for our experts.
Not all at once.
Let me bring this back here.
I'm curious, first of all, great panel, everyone. It was so interesting. So thank you. I'm curious what lines of business you find most interesting. I know I heard about cyber and you talked about space, but I'm curious, going down the line, if there is a certain business line that you find most interesting, or industry that you would be most interested in, working within an insurance.
My last question kind of answered this for me. I'm very interested in digital assets.
Right now I work in construction, so that's something that interests me. There's a lot that you can do within construction, and right now you see a lot of technological advances within construction.
I'm quite biased. So I've worked at Swiss Re, and I'd say it's not a line of business, but rather reinsurance in general, because the way that it works is it's a ladder system. The company doesn't get insurance unless you get it from the insurance carrier, and the insurance carrier is not comfortable writing insurance if they don't see it off to the reinsurer. And so it's almost like without that reinsurer piece, it all falls apart. So that would be my answer.
I already alluded to it with cyber. This one's sort of a giveaway. I'm sorry, it's a throwaway, but cyber is what sort of, is interesting to me, because in our experience in Lloyd's this past week, 2 weeks ago now, it was very interesting hearing everyone's different perspective on cyber. Another one that I'll go with is energy. I think that the energy industry is changing very much so. We heard presentations, brilliant presentations regarding how we hear all the time how energy is changing. We're becoming more green. We're going to solar, wind, whatever it may be. That being said, the need for insurance in those areas is not changing. So we're seeing sort of insurers adapt to that, and watching how that plays out is going to be very interesting over the course of, I think, the next couple of years of my career as I enter the industry, is seeing how some of these large scale insurers that are so focused on energy, if they either put energy in their back pocket and say, all right, we need to focus somewhere else, or if they maintain that focus on energy and seeing that, you know, that's the way we'll go. We'll just have to figure out how to work with our clients to better serve them.
So this past summer, I was working in an actuarial team doing credit and political risk, which is a very special risk. There's no precedent that you can follow. It's basically case by case. So there's no specific line of business that I'm interested in, but any of the special kind of risk where it's more challenging to kind of, how do you price that risk? You have to look at a lot of different variables. I like a challenge, so something along those lines.
Yeah, I would say specialty E&S. I worked mostly on the casualty side in all my internships. So casualty line definitely interests me, or I wouldn't be here, but I am more interested in just learning more about the different lines, and then, you know, maybe just sticking with one that I really feel passionate about, where I see either a challenge or potential for growth.
That was a great question. Thank you.
Ready? Oh, sorry. Yeah, hi. I'm on. So it sounds like relationships are important, making connections. So everyone's nodding. I'd like to know a little bit more about that. So when you say relationships and making connections, what does that really mean to you?
So drawing again on our experience, we spent our first day in Lloyd's, it was a Monday. And I don't know if you know, after the pandemic, no one's going into Lloyd's on Monday and Friday for the most part. I don't want to throw anyone on the bus, but it was a ghost town. You know, you walk in and you've seen photos on Google Images, and that's, you know, you're studying insurance. We've seen photos from presentations from our professors saying, this is what Lloyd's look like. And you see a hustle and bustle, and there's paintings and, you know, escalators going up and down full of people. And you walk in on Monday and it's like, all right, did we not open yet? Where's everyone? You know, because it was so empty. Going back Tuesday, polar opposite. It was a great experience. You watch people shake hands. You watch people. I was given a tour by Aegis was the company, and the, you know, the chief underwriter was walking through and he's shaking hands with brokers as he's giving us a tour. And he's saying, hey guys, you know, like, give me a second. I have some students with me. I'll come back to you. And you watch the engagement that these people have with one another. And they're not just, you know, employees that only see each other once in a while. These guys become friends, even though they're at different companies, even though technically in theory they're competitors, they become friends. They become sort of, there's a camaraderie that gets built. And that to me was the foundation, or sort of, you know, the cornerstone of the industry is that relationship. That's a comment I made earlier. And that sort of solidified that. That made that very clear in my mind that that's the case. And I think it's something you hear, but until you see it, it's not something you can relate to. That was when I, you know, the light bulb went off, it clicked.
So I'd say the running joke within our group when we were in London and Miami was, at any moment I can whip out my Rolodex of CEOs and assistants, and I can get you right there. If you need to know the CEO of Aegis, I got it. You need their assistant, I got it. Anything you want, I have it, right? But what's the point of having all those cards if you're not going to use it, right? So you have a conversation here and there. What's the point to each person? There's not a selfishness in this. It's more so, how can you help the other person? And so not all the time that you're supposed to look to a connection or a relationship of how I can be benefit. Sometimes you know some things that person can be benefit with. So when we were in London, when we were being introduced in Lloyd's of London, there were a few panelists that were talking about crypto and blockchain. And it was clear to see that, being such a new industry, there's that gap of knowledge that they don't really have. And so they're striving to make their product better, but they don't know much about it. And so I have a little bit more expertise in blockchain and crypto. And so I said, there's a simpler way of doing this. There's already a product out there that you can either purchase or partner with in the crypto world, and which would help you. And so you reach out. There's nothing that harmful in that you can help and provide a lending hand, even if you don't personally benefit. You want to help, because when you help someone else, it helps the industry and makes the industry a better place.
First, I want to commend you on establishing and managing a LinkedIn group dedicated to young professionals. That's really tremendous. So connections are so important, especially when cold emails are so challenging. It's very hard to get into the confidence of sending cold emails. And I'm so thankful. My first semester, I attended a summit with St. John's University, and we got to listen to risk managers at top companies around the country and hear their perspective on what incoming risks are on the horizon. And something that was so warming was these professionals were so quick to say, anything you need, email us, ask any questions. And for me, someone who didn't know much about insurance, I could not tell you anything at that point. I asked silly questions. I said, what is an underwriter and how do this was the first 2 days of my master's degree, and I was very nervous, and they were so quick to respond and say, this is the industry, break it down. This is what our company specializes in within the industry. This is how your degree is going to help you further into that industry. And it just was truly remarkable to have that connection and establish those, what once I was so nervous about, I'm so confident about now because of those connections. And like Nitin said, although my Rolodex may not be big, but it's growing, I know I can reach out to any of those individuals and say, one, it will be helpful in the future, especially to see kind of what risk maybe their company's thinking and elaborating, but also be able to ask for upcoming opportunities and ask, hi, another silly question. So that would be the importance of connection.
Anybody else? By the way, the description for RIMS is endurance contest.
Hi, guys. So my name is Grace Alexander. I'm a student at St. John's University, along with all my peers up there who are doing a great job. My question for you all is, where do you all want your careers to take you within the industry?
I mean, I can answer any question you want. It's fine. Listen, that was the deal here. That if you guys get stumped, I can take it. So, where do I want to see my career? It's basically, I tell all my friends this, that basically you never restrain yourself to somewhere that you don't want to be. It's always where you feel most happy, and you don't have to give up a job where you're currently at to go somewhere else. You can always market yourself and go out there and look what's in the market. And so, for me particularly, I want a mixture of actuarial and underwriting, which is why I'm taking both the actuarial and the CPCU exams, because it gives you that overall knowledge of the industry. Most actuaries you talk to, they don't have that underwriting experience or that knowledge of how do I connect the actuarial piece to insurance. And so that's the key thing, that I always want to look at the bigger picture. And eventually I see myself in an executive level position, or forming my own company, or investing in a company that does something like the vision I want in the future. And those are possible routes you take. You never limit yourself to one specific area, because sometimes you just get bored and you always want to field out your positions and your opinions.
Yeah, so I think this question goes sort of hand in hand with the previous one, or my answer to the previous one. You asked me where I want to be 10, 15 years from now. I think it's so much more, you can list milestones, and I would imagine 9 out of 10 people probably have the same milestones, right? The exams passed, the credentials to your name, the letters after your name, those are important, don't get me wrong. But I think much more than that, sort of taking a look back, I think it's important for me, especially, to understand that I'm just a cog in the machine and contribute what I can to a company and to my employer, but also to give back. I've benefited, I mentioned it very early on in the segment, benefiting from a mentor and how important that's been for me. I think I see myself hopefully contributing back, being part of a community, as Taylor alluded to, and also helping students coming back for alumni events to St. John's. It's so important because it's something that, although not everyone does it, the people who do it have such a tremendous effect on young students like ourselves. We've seen it. We have alumni that we can, spout off the top of our heads that we've added to the Rolodex that came back and helped us. I'd like to definitely be that person who goes back and says, Jody needs help at an event, I'd gladly contribute. Or even more so, meeting a kid at work who's in his first, second, third day on the job and saying, hey, and taking him under your wing. I think that's something that is tremendously meaningful and, would both contribute to my own growth and the person's growth. So that's important to me.
Yes, for me, I think I see myself making an impact in some way, shape, or form. I think without that, I wouldn't feel like I, contributed enough. So I want to learn. That's the first priority, is to learn outside of the textbooks, outside of the coursework, and learn in the industry, meet people, form those relationships where I know that if I'm not in the room, they're saying, oh, well, Alina did this, maybe she can help out, or give that opportunity to her because she did this before. So making sure that I feel appreciated, and that, because when I do, you'll get my passion, you'll get my hard work, and you'll never lose me in that way. And so hopefully eventually I'll, transform some of the leadership skills that I've gotten through Gamma and through my experiences involved on campus into some bigger role in the industry. And then maybe after that, when I make enough money, the two of us will open a school together and give back in that way. So yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? I will just put in a pitch for my friends back there from Anderson Kill. I am a recovering lawyer, and they are coverage attorneys who are always interested in recruiting because, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but part of the best part about your case is really solid information and people who really understand the insurance industry first. So thank you all. This has been a great panel. I appreciate you all coming. Thank you to our audience as well. And thank you to the folks listening on the Zoom call. We appreciate all of your efforts, and thank you to St. John's and Accord, and especially to Tasha and YPN and Bill ALM. Thank you all, and enjoy the rest of the evening.